At 65, rich and successful, but completely alone and without love. I'm 65 years old, and last Tuesday I did something I hadn't done in decades. I sat down with a pen and paper and made an honest inventory of my life. Not a financial inventory. I do those quarterly with my accountant and wealth manager, tracking assets and returns and net worth with the precision that made me successful in business. Are you enjoying this story? Then consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Take a look. 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the opportunity to subscribe now. It's free, and you'll keep receiving amazing stories. And don't forget, at the end of the video you'll find more stories like this one. No, this was different. This was an attempt to take stock of my life in ways that actually matter, to look beyond the numbers and see what I had really built over 6.5 decades of existence. I sat at my dining room table, expensive Italian marble that seats 12 but has only ever seated me, in my penthouse apartment overlooking the city, surrounded by all the trappings of success, and I drew a line down the middle of the page. On the left side I wrote successes. On the right side I wrote failures, and then I started filling it in. The left column came easily. Retired entrepreneur, sold my company 5 years ago for $83 million. Current net worth approximately $8 million after taxes, investments and purchases. Owner of this penthouse worth $2 million. Owner of a beach house in the Hamptons worth $1.5 million. Owner of a mountain cabin in Colorado worth $800,000. Portfolio of stocks and bonds generating substantial passive income. No debt. Financial security for multiple lifetimes. Member of exclusive clubs. Known and respected in business circles. Built a company from nothing and sold it for a fortune. By any conventional metric, a successful life. That's what the left column said. Then I moved to the right column and I sat there for a long time with my pen hovering over the paper, because once I started writing in that column, once I acknowledged what belonged there, I would have to face a truth I had been avoiding for years. But I'm 65 years old and I just got some news from my doctor that changes everything, so it's time to be honest. Past time, really. So I wrote, no spouse, no children, no grandchildren, no close friends, no one who would notice if I died tomorrow, no one who calls to check on me. No one I can call when I'm scared or sad or just need to hear a human voice that cares. Never been in love. Never been loved. Never experienced physical intimacy beyond a few awkward paid encounters that left me feeling more alone than before. 65 years old and virgin in every way that matters. And at the bottom of the right column, in letters I had to force myself to write, complete and utter failure as a human being. I sat there looking at those two columns, and the realization that crashed over me was so devastating, I actually felt physical pain in my chest. The right column mattered more than the left column, infinitely more. The things in the left column, the money and the properties and the business success, they were worthless without the things that should have been in the right column if I had lived my life correctly. What should have been there was loving marriage of 40 years, 3 children who call every week, 7 grandchildren I spoil and adore, close friends I've known for decades, a life rich in love and connection and meaning. But that's not what's there. What's there is emptiness, isolation, a waste of 65 years. And here's the thing that makes it so much worse. I chose this, every bit of it. This isn't something that happened to me because of bad luck or tragedy or circumstances beyond my control. This is the direct result of thousands of deliberate choices I made over decades, choices that seemed rational and smart and disciplined at the time, but that I can now see with terrible clarity were the worst choices a person could make. I built this prison I'm living in brick by brick, choice by choice, year after year, and now I'm locked inside it and there's no way out. Let me tell you how I got here. Let me walk you through the construction of this catastrophe, so that maybe, just maybe, someone reading this who's on the same path will stop before they end up where I am. I need to believe that my failure can serve as a warning to someone, because otherwise it's just complete waste, and I can't accept that. I can't accept that I destroyed my life for nothing. I grew up in Detroit in the 1960s, the only child of parents who owned a small hardware store. We weren't poor, but we weren't comfortable either. The store did okay most years, struggled some years, and my parents worked constantly to keep it afloat. I watched them stress about money, about competition from bigger stores, about whether they'd be able to retire or would have to work until they dropped dead. I absorbed their anxiety, their fear of financial insecurity, and somewhere in my teenage years, I made a decision. I would never struggle like they did. I would be rich, really rich. Rich enough that I never had to worry about money, never had to stress about bills, never had to work myself to exhaustion just to get by. That goal became my North Star, the organizing principle of my entire life. I was smart, good at math and science, and I worked obsessively in high school. I didn't date, didn't go to parties, didn't do any of the normal teenage social stuff. I told myself, and anyone who asked, that I didn't have time for that nonsense. I was focused on getting into a good college with scholarships because my parents couldn't afford to pay for it. And I succeeded, got into MIT with a full ride, studied engineering, graduated near the top of my class. My parents were proud. I was proud. I was on my way to the success I had envisioned. College was supposed to be about more than just classes, about personal growth and social development, and maybe finding someone to build a life with. But I approached it the same way I had approached high school, as a stepping stone to financial success, nothing more. I studied constantly, took extra courses, did internships every summer, built my resume systematically and strategically. I had roommates, but not friends. I was invited to parties, but never went. There were girls who showed interest, but I always brushed them off. I'm too busy, I'd say. Maybe later, after I graduate. There was one girl in particular, Amanda, who was in several of my engineering classes. She was brilliant, funny, beautiful, and she made it very clear that she liked me. She asked me out multiple times over the course of junior year. I always said no. Always had an excuse. Too much work. Too many exams coming up. Too busy with my senior project. The last time she asked, right before senior year started, she was direct about it. She said, "Look, I like you. I think we could be good together. I'm asking you one more time, do you want to go on a date with me, just one date? If it doesn't work out, fine, but at least give it a chance." And I remember looking at her, this amazing woman who for some inexplicable reason wanted to spend time with me, and I remember thinking, a relationship would be a distraction. I'm about to start my senior year, need to keep my GPA up, need to focus on job applications and interviews, need to position myself for the best possible job offer. I can't afford to get emotionally involved with someone right now. There will be time for that later, after I'm established in my career, after I have financial security. So I said no. I told her I was flattered, but I needed to focus on my studies and my career. The hurt and disappointment on her face was obvious, but I pushed it away. I had made the smart choice, the disciplined choice. I was wrong, but I wouldn't understand that for another 43 years. I graduated from MIT with multiple job offers from top engineering firms and tech companies. I chose the one with the highest salary and the best benefits, moved to Silicon Valley, and threw myself into work with the same single-minded intensity I had applied to school. The company culture was intense. Startup mentality, even though it wasn't technically a startup anymore. Long hours and high pressure and constant demands. I loved it. I thrived in it. I worked 70, 80, sometimes 90 hours a week. I lived in a small apartment that I barely saw because I was always at the office. I ate most of my meals at work, slept 4 or 5 hours a night, had zero social life. My entire existence was work and building my career and accumulating money. My 20s passed this way, a blur of projects and deadlines and promotions and raises. I moved up quickly because I was good at my job and because I had no life outside of work to distract me or slow me down. While my colleagues left at reasonable hours to go home to spouses or partners or friends, I stayed late. While they took vacations and weekends off, I kept working. While they built lives, I built a career and a bank account. And I told myself I was winning, that I was making smart choices, that I would have time for personal life later once I had achieved financial security. I need to be clear about something. I wasn't entirely oblivious to what I was missing. There were moments, especially in my late 20s and early 30s, when I would see colleagues with their partners at company events, or hear them talking about their families, or noticed them leaving work to go to their kid's soccer game or their anniversary dinner. And I would feel a pang of something. Not quite longing, because I had trained myself not to want those things, but maybe recognition that there was a whole dimension of life I wasn't experiencing. But those moments were brief, easily pushed aside and buried under more work. I told myself that those people were settling, that they were dividing their focus and limiting their potential, that I was being smarter and more strategic by focusing entirely on career and wealth building. By 35, I had a senior engineering position and was making over $200,000 a year. By 40, I was director of engineering, making over $300,000. I was accumulating wealth rapidly, investing aggressively, building toward the financial security I had always wanted, and I was completely alone. I lived in a nicer apartment by then, but it was still just a place to sleep, furnished minimally, no personality, no warmth. I had no friends, just work acquaintances. I had no hobbies or interests beyond work. I had no romantic prospects because I never put myself in situations where I might meet someone, and even if I had, I wouldn't have known what to do about it. I had spent 2 decades avoiding human connection so successfully that I had forgotten how to connect at all. There were a couple of attempts at dating in my 40s, half-hearted and doomed from the start. A colleague tried to set me up with her friend, and I went to dinner with this woman out of obligation more than interest. It was excruciating. I had no idea how to make conversation about anything except work. When she asked me about hobbies, I didn't have any. When she asked what I did for fun, I didn't have an answer. When she tried to create any kind of personal connection, I didn't know how to respond. The date ended early with mutual agreement that there was no chemistry. I felt relieved. Dating seemed complicated and uncomfortable, and it was easier to just avoid it. At 45, I made a choice that would define the next 20 years of my life. I started my own company. I had an idea for a software product that I was convinced could be successful, and I had enough savings to take the risk. I quit my job, cashed out my stock options, invested almost everything I had into getting the company off the ground. For the next 3 years, I worked harder than I had ever worked in my life. 18-hour days, 7 days a week, no breaks, no vacations, no life outside of building this company. I hired a small team, talented engineers who believed in the vision, and we built something remarkable. The company took off. By the time I was 50, we had gone from 5 employees to over 100. By 55, we were a major player in our market segment with annual revenues over $50 million. By 60, we had been acquired by a larger tech company for $83 million. After taxes and paying out the small percentage of equity I had given to early employees, I personally netted about $45 million. At 60 years old, I was wealthier than I had ever imagined possible when I was young. I had achieved the goal I had spent 40 years working toward, and I felt nothing. Just emptiness, because there was no one to celebrate with, no one to share it with, no one who cared beyond the professional congratulations from business associates who barely knew me. I retired immediately after the acquisition, bought the penthouse, the beach house, the mountain cabin, bought expensive cars and clothes and watches, traveled to places I had always wanted to see, and every single experience was hollow. Eating alone in Michelin-star restaurants in Paris, walking through museums in Rome with no one to discuss the art with, sitting on a beach in Bali, surrounded by couples and families. Every moment reinforced how alone I was, how I had spent 6 decades building a fortune but not a life. The past 5 years since retirement have been a slow descent into a loneliness so profound it's almost indistinguishable from despair. I wake up every morning in my penthouse alone. I make coffee alone. I eat breakfast alone. I spend my days trying to fill time with activities that don't actually interest me because I never developed any real interests beyond work. I read the financial news. I manage my investments. I go to the gym not because I enjoy it but because my doctor says I need to. I have dinner alone, either cooking for myself or going to a restaurant where I'm always a table for one, surrounded by people with companions and families. I go to bed alone, and I do it all again the next day, every day, for 5 years. So I tried joining clubs, tried volunteering, tried taking classes, tried everything the internet and therapists suggest for making friends later in life. But here's the thing. Making real friendships at 65 when you've spent your entire life avoiding them is nearly impossible. Everyone my age has established friend groups that go back decades. They have history and shared experiences and inside jokes and deep bonds that took years or decades to form. There's no room for a lonely old man who never learned how to be a friend, who doesn't know how to be vulnerable or open or genuine in personal relationships. I'm always the awkward outsider, the new person who doesn't quite fit, the one people are polite to but don't actually want to spend time with. I tried dating too, more seriously than I had in my 40s. Joined expensive dating services, went on dozens of dates. Every single one was a disaster. I'm 65 years old with zero relationship experience, and it shows. I don't know how to flirt. I don't know how to be charming or romantic. I don't know how to create emotional intimacy. The few women who agreed to second or third dates quickly realized that there was something fundamentally broken in me, some essential piece of humanity that most people develop in their 20s, but that I never did because I was too busy working. One woman, after our fourth date, said something that cut deep but was absolutely accurate. "You're a successful man, and I'm sure you have many good qualities, but you don't know how to connect with people. You don't know how to be present with another person. It's like you're performing the role of someone on a date rather than actually being on a date. I'm sorry, but I need someone who knows how to actually be in a relationship, and I don't think you're capable of that." She was right. I'm not capable of it. I spent 65 years avoiding emotional connection so successfully that now I don't know how to create it, even when I desperately want to. The skills that most people learn in their teens and 20s, the basic human skills of intimacy and vulnerability and mutual care, I never developed. And at 65, it's too late to learn them. You can't compress decades of emotional development into a few years at the end of your life. The window closed, and I wasn't paying attention when it happened. Yes, I'm a virgin at 65 years old. Not in the technical sense. I've paid for sex a handful of times over the years, encounters that were mechanical and depressing and left me feeling more alone than before. But virgin in every way that matters. I've never made love with someone I loved and who loved me back. I've never experienced real intimacy, physical or emotional. I've never woken up next to someone and felt that warmth and connection. I've never had someone touch me with genuine affection rather than professional obligation. I've never known what it's like to be truly known by another person and truly accepted. Are you enjoying this story? Then consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Take a look. 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the opportunity to subscribe now. It's free and you'll keep receiving amazing stories. And don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. 2 months ago, I went to see my doctor for a routine checkup. I'd been having some symptoms that worried me, forgetting things more than usual, getting confused sometimes about where I had put things or what day it was, having trouble with words occasionally, feeling like my mind wasn't as sharp as it used to be. I mentioned these things to my doctor almost casually, expecting him to say it was normal aging, nothing to worry about. Instead, he looked concerned. He referred me to a neurologist. I had extensive testing, cognitive assessments, MRI, blood work, the full battery, and 3 weeks ago I got the results. Early stage Alzheimer's disease. The neurologist was direct but kind. He said that the disease was in its early stages, that I was still relatively high functioning, but that it would progress. There's no cure, just medications that might slow the progression somewhat. He talked about trajectories and timelines, about how everyone's experience is different, but that eventually, probably within 5 to 10 years, I would lose the ability to live independently. I would need full-time care. My memories would fade. My personality would change. Eventually, I wouldn't recognize myself in the mirror or remember my own name. I would decline until I died, and the process could take years. I sat in his office listening to this diagnosis, this death sentence, and my first thought wasn't about my health or my mortality. My first thought was, I'm going to go through this alone. There will be no spouse to hold my hand through the appointments and the treatments, no children to help me navigate the medical system and make decisions when I can't make them myself. No family to sit with me when I'm scared or confused. No one who loves me to help me through what will probably be the most difficult experience of my life. Just me, alone, until I'm not even me anymore. Until I'm just a body in a bed being cared for by professionals who are kind but indifferent because I'm just another patient to them, just another job. Since that diagnosis, I've been visiting assisted living facilities that specialize in memory care. I've toured 5 so far, all expensive, all highly rated, all depressing as hell, despite their beautiful grounds and their cheerful staff and their promises of dignity and quality of life. I've chosen one, the most expensive, because why not? What else am I going to do with my $8 million? It costs $15,000 a month, which seems obscene, but I can afford it easily. I've signed the preliminary paperwork. When my symptoms progress to the point where living alone becomes dangerous, I'll move in. I'll spend whatever time I have left in a private room in a beautiful facility, cared for by nurses and aides who are professionals, who will be kind and competent, but who will go home at the end of their shifts and not think about me again until their next shift. Who will care for me because it's their job, not because they love me. And eventually, I'll forget. I'll forget my name, my life, my achievements, my regrets. The Alzheimer's will progress and I'll lose myself piece by piece. Maybe that's a mercy in a way. Maybe forgetting is better than remembering all the ways I wasted my life. But even that mercy is a lonely one, because I'll go through the forgetting alone. No family to remind me of who I was, no spouse to show me photos and tell me stories about our life together. No children to visit and tell me they love me even though I don't remember them. Just professional caregivers doing their jobs, managing my decline, keeping me comfortable, waiting for me to die so they can move the next patient into my room. This is what success looks like. This is what I built with 65 years of discipline and focus and sacrifice. $8 million, 3 properties, a portfolio of investments, 0 people who care about me, 0 relationships, 0 love, 0 meaning. I followed the formula I thought would lead to happiness: work hard, make money, achieve financial security, and then everything else would fall into place. But I followed that formula perfectly and ended up here, alone in a penthouse, slowly losing my mind, preparing to die in an expensive facility surrounded by strangers. The formula was wrong. Or more accurately, the formula was incomplete. Financial success is necessary for certain kinds of security and comfort, but it's nowhere near sufficient for a life worth living. I learned that lesson, but I learned it 60 years too late for it to matter. I look back at my life and I see the specific moments where I made the wrong choices. Amanda in college asking me out repeatedly and me always saying no because I was too busy. That woman at 35 showing interest at a conference and me brushing her off because I didn't have time for a relationship. The countless times I chose to work late instead of accepting invitations to socialize with colleagues. The way I systematically eliminated anything from my life that wasn't directly contributing to my career and my bank account. Every single one of those choices seemed rational at the time. They seemed like what a serious, ambitious, intelligent person would do. They were actually the choices of a fool, a coward, someone so afraid of financial insecurity that he sacrificed everything meaningful to avoid it. The cruelest irony is that I'm financially secure beyond my wildest dreams, and that security is completely worthless. It doesn't keep me warm at night. It doesn't provide comfort when I'm scared about the diagnosis and what's coming. It doesn't give me anyone to talk to or share experiences with. It doesn't fill the void in my chest that's been growing for decades and is now so large it feels like it's consuming me from the inside. I have $8 million and no one to leave it to, no one who would want it or remember me. It will go to charities I'll designate in my will, organizations I have no real connection to, and that will be the sum total of my legacy, money distributed to strangers after I'm gone. I think about that inventory I made, those 2 columns, the success column and the failure column, and I realize now that I had it backwards. The things I listed as successes are actually failures. The business success? I built a company at the expense of building a life. Failure. The wealth? I accumulated millions at the cost of accumulating experiences and relationships. Failure. The properties? I own 3 houses and none of them are homes because homes require people and love. Failure. Everything I thought I was succeeding at was actually the destruction of my life, and I was too blind to see it. If I could go back, if I could talk to my 18-year-old self heading off to MIT with big dreams of financial success, what would I say? I would grab him, shake him, make him listen. I would say, yes, work hard, yes, build a career, yes, achieve financial security, but not at the expense of everything else, not at the expense of love and friendship and human connection. Say yes to Amanda when she asks you out. Date in college. Build friendships. Let people in. Be vulnerable. Take risks with your heart. When you're 35 and someone shows interest, explore it instead of dismissing it. When colleagues invite you for drinks, go sometimes. When opportunities for human connection present themselves, take them, because those opportunities don't last forever. The window for building a life closes faster than you think, and once it's closed, all the money in the world can't reopen it. I would tell him that financial security is important, but it's not the most important thing. That love matters more than money. That connection matters more than career advancement. That experiences with people you care about matter more than accumulating possessions. That at the end of your life, when you're looking back at what you built, you won't care about your net worth or your job title or your properties. You'll care about whether you loved and were loved, whether you built meaningful relationships, whether you actually lived instead of just working and accumulating. And if you miss that, if you sacrifice all of that for financial success, you'll end up like me. 65 years old, rich, alone, dying slowly in a way that will erase even your memories of your wasted life, with no one to mourn you and nothing meaningful to show for 6 decades of existence. But I can't go back. I can't warn my younger self. I can't make different choices. All I can do is sit here in my expensive penthouse, eating dinner alone, managing a fortune that means nothing, waiting for my mind to deteriorate until I can't live independently anymore, until I have to move to that facility where I'll spend my final years or months or however long it takes, slowly forgetting everything, including the fact that I wasted my entire life chasing things that don't matter while ignoring the things that do. The only thing I can do now is write this, put it out into the world and hope that someone reads it and learns from my catastrophic mistakes. If you're young, if you're making the choices I made, if you're prioritizing career and money over relationships and love, if you're telling yourself that you'll focus on personal life later, after you achieve professional success, please stop. Please reconsider. Please understand that later might not come. And even if it does, the opportunities for love and connection that exist now might not exist then. Please don't end up like me, successful by conventional metrics and an absolute failure by the metrics that actually matter. Please don't trade your life for money and then realize too late that you made the worst trade possible. At 65, rich and successful but completely alone and without love, facing a diagnosis that will erase my mind and my memories, preparing to die in a facility surrounded by paid caregivers, leaving behind only money and no legacy of love or connection or meaning, I can say with absolute certainty, I was wrong about everything. The life I built is not a success, it's a tragedy, and I would give every penny of my $8 million to go back and make different choices. But I can't. So all I can do is warn you. Don't be me. Are you enjoying this story? Then consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Take a look. 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the opportunity to subscribe now. It's free and you'll keep receiving amazing stories. And don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. Choose differently. Choose love. Choose people. Choose life before it's too late. Because it becomes too late faster than you imagine, and then you're old and alone and dying and filled with regret so profound they're crushing you, and no amount of money can save you from that hell.